Yo, welcome to How to Write a Novel. So I'm walking down, it's called the Gibson Trail on the north side of Fredericton, New Brunswick, going toward Marysville, because there's a fancy pants coffee shop, it turns out there, which is surprising because there's not much fucking else out there, but it's a good excuse to go on this nice walk, go to the coffee shop, work on my novel, but I am not going there to work on Explode, the novel I've been talking about this whole goddamn time. Instead, I'm going to work on The Knower, the other novel that I've been working on the side. That's probably like half done or something. And the reason for that is I'm done. I'm finally done the first draft. Which again, obviously it's not done. There's a lot more to go. Rewinding all the way back to my first episode, that's one of the things I learned. One of the things I remember saying back then was that I was always failing to write a fiction book. So I was like, all right, let's take it down a gear. This is not happening. I've just tried and failed so many times for so many years. Let's downshift. So I switched to a non-fiction book and a book about video games. I was like, let's just make this as easy as possible. Free form fucking stream of consciousness book about video games. So I wrote a book about The Last of Us, which has stayed surprisingly relevant. I mean, with the HBO show and stuff, somehow nobody else has written a book about The Last of Us. However, still not exactly a huge success, but whatever. Enough people still did read it, and the coolest thing was the former Naughty Dog employees who read it. And then I had a big Zoom talk with them, mainly about how The Last of Us 2 is such a piece of shit, which with the HBO show, people are learning now. I haven't seen it, but good luck, good fucking luck with where that story goes. But the main value of finishing that book was that I finished a book. It upped my confidence considerably. I was like, all right, I finished a book. If I finished a non-fiction book, now I can finish a fiction book. Climbing my way up the ladder. It definitely served its purpose in that sense. Even if fucking nobody had ever read that book, it would still have been valuable to me. But I also had the sobering realization when I finished that book of like, oh fuck, all this time, that I'd been like hoping to get to the end, thinking I couldn't make it to the finish line. Why can't I ever get to the end? Why can't I finish a book? And then I finished that book and I was like, oh fuck, I'm at the starting line, That's when a whole new world opened up to me of like, oh fuck, now I got to figure out how to promote this, what to do with it, how to get anyone to know that it's a thing. And yeah, like I said, that particular, I learned some lessons, but I mean, I certainly didn't crack that nut. I still don't fucking know. But it was a shock to realize I had not been, again, let me just repeat exactly what I said in the first episode. I had not been failing to get to the finish line. I'd been failing to get to the starting line. It's like, oh, that seems so fucking obvious now that I'm here. But I never had thought of it that way. I didn't realize it was going to feel like that. Interesting thing to learn. It is just like a great example of how there's a limit to how much you can conceptualize of a situation without actually experiencing it. And then when you experience it, it is so fucking clear all of a sudden because you're right there. You're right in it. It's all around you. So this is a very similar situation, except even less so, because I'm extra not finished now. Not only am I not at the finish line, I'm not actually even at that start line, that proverbial start line, because this is only the first draft. There's still so much to do. But I'm going to do what I said I was going to do last episode. I'm just going to put this story aside, let it sit for 6 months, the Stephen King method. Then I'll look at it with fresh eyes at that point. But yeah, it's a very strange, somewhat anticlimactic feeling to finally be here. Because it's been done for a little bit, but I haven't done this podcast because I'm like, let me just wait and see. Like, I don't know when I'm going to do another podcast after this. I feel like this podcast also is going to go into some kind of hibernation. Because this was the whole point. This was the whole goal, and I'm here. So let's make sure if there's anything important to say about this, let's hold off and see what happens. See if there's any unexpected occurrences that I didn't foresee, but there's really not. Man, it is like the eye of the storm, just like so calm. Of like, yeah, I mean, it's just done. It's just done. I just wake up and I'm not thinking about it. I go to walk to the coffee shop and I don't feel that tug of guilt that I should be writing or that I need to work on that novel. Nope. I'll just work on the other novel. You know, the process never ends. But yeah, no, there's nothing. It's just done. It's like, all right, well, here we are in the calm. It's all done. But yeah, this was the plan. The plan was just to get to this first draft. You know, I'll continue on. Things will keep going. But as far as the remit of this podcast, this was the idea from the start. Is I just had to make sure I didn't fail to get to the end again. So a part of the podcast was that little extra pressure, little extra fire under the feet, little extra need to keep going, and I do think it did help. And now that we're at the end, you know, the just keep grinding, doing a little bit each day, it worked. I did take breaks periodically, particularly this last bit where I was traveling. You know, if there was one thing I would say about myself, it's like, yeah, maybe I didn't need to take those breaks. Maybe I could have pushed myself a little harder. But I think it's okay. I mean, I'm here, right? It all worked out. And the main thing I learned is just the slowness, the speed, the lack of speed. This took a really long time, but again, who cares? I'm here, right? I made it. It doesn't matter that it took a really long time, but I did not expect it to take a really long time. Oh, here's a little side path down by the river. Let's head down this way. So yeah, I think my initial pitch of just do a little bit of work every day, just stick with it, I still stand by that. I think that was the right pitch. That was the right take. And the proof's in the pudding. I finally got here. It worked. But what I didn't expect, the thing I learned along the way, was the slowness. I did not expect it to be so slow. So yeah, if we want to wrap it all up, those would be the two things, the two takeaways from this podcast. In case you jumped in right here at the title of First Draft Done, and you don't want to listen to all that other shit, here's what it is working a little bit every day will get you there. That's all you got to do. You don't have to expect more of yourself than that. Just try to do a little bit every day and you'll get there. The classic people overestimate what they can do in a day, but underestimate what they can do in a year. But the other thing, speaking of years, is that it's going to take more years than you think. Where it is funny that The Last of Us book, if I remember right, was about 2 years to write. So I was like, all right, cool, a novel. How much worse could that be? Maybe 3 years? But hey, let's assume it's going to take longer than I think. So we'll say 4 years. But then what really happened is the greater theory of how long stuff takes, which is try to envision how long the longest possible length could be. 3 years. Then add more to that. Extend how long that's going to be. 4 years. Then double that. You know, that's the reality. That's the reality of how crazy long it can take to do some of this stuff. And that's what happened. So let me give you the stats. I wrote down some stats. All right, this podcast started on February 3rd, 2018. And in that episode, I said I'd been working on the book for about 3 months. So we'll say we started the book in November 2017. Oh, here's some cyclists. My little path by the river did not last.
Hello.
Hi. Little do they know, they have just guest starred on the How to Write a Novel podcast. So yeah, if November 2017 is when I started, this first draft I finished on June 8th, 2025. And then I fiddled with it for another 2 or 3 days. the last bit of the last chapter, I got to the point where I would change something and change it back and change it back and change it back. And it's like, okay, I guess I'm done. I'm just changing things back and forth. But June 8th is what I'm going to call the official end. So 7.5 years is how long it took me to write the first draft of this novel. And yeah, like I was saying, maybe if I took a few less breaks, it could have happened a little faster. But I wouldn't have wanted to push myself a lot, to go a lot faster. That initial 3-year thought, that seems so crazy in hindsight. Like I would not have wanted that to happen. Because now that I'm at the end and I can see the whole shape of things, or, roughly, I think I'll still be a little shocked probably when I read this draft and really see what it looks like all together. But I basically, in my mind, have the whole thing there. And there are so many little details and so much little stuff where the basic shape of the story, I think, if I had somehow, I don't even know how this would be possible, just learning more about myself and my own internal rhythms and how I work and whatever, I don't know that there's any way, unless somebody was literally whipping me to make me write, I don't know how I ever could have finished this book in 3 years. But if it had happened somehow, the overall shape would be roughly the same because I had most of the plot stuff all figured out. Tone changed quite a bit, I suppose, but it just wouldn't be the same book. It wouldn't be the same and it wouldn't be as good. Here's another little side path going away from the river. Let's go this way for a bit. Although I got lost in one of these side paths the other day, got caught in marshland and had to trudge through swampy water for 10 minutes. And it sucked, so let's not have that happen. So yeah, there's that little teeny I wonder if I could have gone a little bit faster thought. It's I guess that's something I could potentially flagellate myself over. But going a lot faster, going anywhere near what I thought was going to be the initial speed, absolutely not. I don't feel any desire for that to have happened. I think it would have been a worse book. I probably would have made myself more miserable, and it just wouldn't be the book that it is. I don't think my best foot would be put forward if I had gone double speed somehow. And even the idea of going a little faster, now that it's done, I'm just yeah, I don't know, I really can't even sink my teeth into that idea, because it's who cares? Who cares, dude? It's done. It's done, and at the same time, it's not a place, it's a process, It's not I'm actually trying to get anywhere. Like I said, it's a little anticlimactic to have gotten here, because the process never stops. The process just switched over to a different novel. Eventually the process will switch back over to this novel, and whatever, I'll just keep grinding out shit till the day I goddamn die. Doesn't really matter when I get to the end, quote unquote, with any of these particular stories. Whatever, who cares? All that matters is that I got there. And then additionally, all that matters about getting there is my own personal crapulence, my own personal development is still way more important than anything that'll actually happen with this book. That Last of Us book is a fine example. If something similar happens with Explode, that only the hoi polloi, only the creme de la creme ever find and read this book, that's fine, whatever, dude. It was important to me to do it. Personal achievement unlocked. Yeah, let's get off this fucking path. I don't trust. I got so fucking lost the other day. It was stupid. Let's not risk that. What's funny though about the math of take the longest it could possibly take, add more time to that, and then double it, which was shockingly accurate, is my friend Brad mentioned. He's yeah, but what's funny about that? That's how it all worked out because you thought it was going to take 2 or 3 years. If you had gone into this project expecting it to take 7.5 years, then what would have happened? The same fucking formula somehow would have happened. Add more to that, double it, be crazy. But yeah, that's definitely my grand takeaway, is that what's the hurry? What's the hurry? Again, who wants to be a big famous writer? Who fucking wants that shit? Speaking of Brad, I was talking to him the other day about Neil Gaiman. Writer of The Sandman. Back when I was a comic shop clerk in the 90s and the early 2000s, Sandman and Preacher were like the two coolest comics. And Neil Gaiman has had many allegations against him, a whole podcast series about all the creepy shit that dude did. And yeah, we were talking a bit about that, and just like the frail little human brain. I'm sure you have to be a particular type of person to begin with to be a huge creep. But just imagine if you've got these like narcissistic tendencies or whatnot, and then for 30 fucking years, people tell you you're a genius. Like that's a curse. That's not a good thing. That's not gonna make you a better person, you know? That's gonna take whatever shit is going on in your brain and it's gonna explode it out to epic proportions. Or the other example I always think of is J.K. Rowling, you know? With J.K. Rowling, the way I kind of think of it is, I think she's kind of forgotten that, that idea of the muse, of being a conduit, you know? Of like, where do ideas come from? Or how every idea is based on a previous idea, or there's like only so many archetypes and there's only so much structure to life. Like Harry Potter is not particularly inventive. You know, it takes from this, it takes from that, it takes from this other thing. J.K. Rowling is not some kind of fucking super genius who just invented this thing out of whole cloth. She's the conduit. Just the subconscious. I don't believe in the mass subconscious in the sense that we're all connected, but I do believe there is a mass subconscious in the sense that we're all kind of the same. We're all drawing from the same type of brain. The magical muse from the heavens that fed her Harry Potter is just because she's got the same fucking experience as the rest of us on Earth. We've all gone through the same types of stuff. We've all experienced the same type of things. And when you fashion that into a digestible form for people, yeah, congratulations, you did that. But you are the shepherd. You are the conduit. That is not yours. You know, that is not your thing. That is an archetypal, classic with a capital C type of story that frankly belongs to everybody. Oh, what is this guy? Guy's in a little four-wheeler. He's not supposed to be doing that. There are signs everywhere that say don't do that. But the point I'm trying to make is, even if you are a super famous writer who has these super famous things, you wrote Harry Potter, you wrote The Sandman, whatever, I think you need to have a fundamental level of humbleness about it. Because you're drawing from the mass subconscious, you're drawing from the muse, you know? The very fact that you wrote something so fucking popular is evidence that you're like reshaping the thoughts and feelings that we all have. You get to put your name on it, you get to make all the money, but you can't start acting like, oh, I own this, I am the God King of this fucking story, I'm special, I'm important. Because like in the case of J.K. Rowling, now it's like, now everyone has to listen to me. Now I'm gonna spout off opinions and you're going to listen to me because I'm a big famous person. And like, I don't even, whether you agree with her or not about her various opinions, what offends me more is the attitude, the lack of humbleness, the lack of appreciation for her position. She's like, I'm just gonna be a big fucking idiot and just spout a bunch of shit that makes people upset. Fuck you, bitch. You don't get to do that. You have a fucking responsibility as the shepherd of this thing that has been created. Just because you wrote this thing that's popular doesn't mean you just get to be a fucking crazy battle axe that just fucking acts like an asshole. That story is not yours. It's yours on only the most surface level. It's like, yeah, you temporarily own it. You make some money from it. You have like copyrights on it. In the long term, none of that shit matters. The story's for everyone. And I think writers would do well to respect their fucking actual place in the process, which is a conduit, a shepherd, not God King of the castle. No one's gonna put up with that shit. I guess that's the thing that I think is funny. It's like Neil Gaiman and J.K. Rowling. Obviously different things, you know. J.K. Rowling's just got annoying opinions. Neil Gaiman is touching up on people's fucking privates. It's a lot worse. But in both cases, it's like, I deserve to get away with this. I deserve to get away with this behavior because I'm a genius. Oh, what a horrible thing. Don't let that, I mean, again, what weird advice. Like, who's ever going to have to worry about this? But if somehow you do write something that gets super famous, try to remember that it's for the aeons, it's for the ages, it's for everybody. It's not yours. You're not that special, you know? You went to a coffee shop and sat down and wrote some shit. Don't be a fucking dickhead because of it. You're not a genius. Or even if you are a genius, who gives a shit? Do you know how many geniuses there are? No one cares. Anyway, I'm getting off on quite a ramble. I don't want to get to the end of this trail when there's traffic and stuff. Perhaps I'll just walk slower, because yeah, I'm getting there. I'm getting toward the end a little bit here. So anyway, speaking of finishing, as far as like the big the big finale, I did miss my opportunity. Like when I was in Asia, so many times I'd just be like hiking some cool mountain. I remember there was this one mountain in Taipei. It was, the entrance to the mountain is like just behind the Taipei 101, the big tower. And then you go up to this, it's called Finger Mountain because it suddenly got really thin and steep. But I remember hiking that, and there's a point where you eventually get far enough away that you can't see the city anymore. You can't see the tower. You're looking the other way, away from Taipei, just into the mountains, the endless mountains that then lead to the ocean. And there was this little shrine up there that someone had recently burned incense in, so it smelled like incense, and it was just so beautiful and so perfect. And then I continued along that trail until I finally got back to the city, and that's where I saw some people like trying to help a turtle get back to its wetland area. So they're just walking down the street next to a turtle, a giant turtle. All this cool shit. I had so many opportunities to finish my novel on the top of a mountain. But I didn't. Instead, I'm back in my hometown, and I was like, oh man, am I gonna finish my novel at Tim Hortons? Fuck. I mean, it's a bit appropriate, but I didn't really want that to be the end. But what I ended up doing that turned out pretty cool is the day that I finished, June 8th, 2025, it was a Saturday. I have this friend who I haven't seen in a long time who got into pro wrestling. He's a pro wrestler now. And I would see him on Facebook and stuff. And he's like, man, if you're back in the Maritimes, like you should try to check out one of the shows I'm on. And I was like, hell yeah, dude, that sounds awesome. I love fucking pro wrestling. And it all worked out where he was doing a show in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island. PEI, famous for Anne of Green Gables, but I haven't been there in a long fucking time. There's this huge bridge, this crazy long bridge that takes 20 minutes to drive across that opened in like 1997, and I've never been on it. That's the last time I was in PEI, it was earlier than that. So I got hooked up, me and my cousin got hooked up with this guy we'd never met before, but he does photography. And he gave us a ride, and we got along well with him, and we just traveled through through New Brunswick. We went across this crazy bridge. We went to see wrestling. It was fucking fun. It was super cool. But then on the way back, it was real late at night. We'd finally kind of talked ourselves out. My cousin fell asleep. Me and the driver guy, you know, we had quite a bit to chat about, but eventually we just kind of ran out of stuff. And it was super duper rainy, really big rainstorm. So I was just kind of letting him focus on the road, and I was sitting in the passenger seat, and it just kind of felt cool. It's like I'm traveling across the province, went on this adventure. Now I'm in this car, and it's just like rain beating down, and it's just like kind of cozy in a way. And I was so close to the end of the book that I was like, I'm gonna make it my mission. I'm gonna finish this book on this drive. And I did. And then, yeah, like I said, I fiddled with it a little bit for another 2 or 3 days at Tim Hortons. But the big finale, like this is basically all good, all done. The words "the end" are not there. I did not include a "the end." But yeah, I finished it on this ride, in this car ride with the super darkness all around me and the rain beating down, and I'm like, you know what, cool enough, that'll do. It's not a mountaintop, but it's a lot better than Tim Hortons. It's the coolest thing that has happened to me in these parts lately. So that's where I was when I finished. And then I just wrote down some generalized details. So there's 51 chapters, although when I'm editing, maybe I can cut one of those, get down to an even 50. That would be cool, but I wasn't aiming for any particular number. I had no idea. It's just almost 50. But even that's okay, because if I don't cut a chapter, I'll just call it chapter 1 to 50 and call chapter 51 finale. So that way it still looks kind of like 50. I just don't want an awkward 51, because every chapter does have the number. And I don't know word count, because as I've rambled about before, I am not a believer in word count. I really think it's literally the worst way to approach writing, the worst motivational tactic. I got to write X number of words. I'm 100%, and I'm not kidding. Literally, I'm 100% opposed to that. I think just writing words. Well, I was thinking about it. Now I got to turn around and walk the other way. I'm really getting to the end of this path. There's a bunch of dog walkers ahead of me. But I was thinking how there's like different types of art that fill different needs. Like if you're writing music, I feel like go ahead, write 100 songs. Jonathan Mann, the guy who used to write a song a day, I don't know what he's been up to lately. Why not? You're not hurting anybody. It's pretty easy to digest a song. You can just listen to a song. Making visual artwork. Go ahead, paint 1,000,000 paintings. Why not? But words, fiction, it's not that way. Having more is not valuable. It's something people need to focus on in a different way. It's something people need to parse in a different way. More is not better. Better is better, More is definitely not valuable. And pushing yourself to write more words will cause you not to write better words. My 7.5 years, like I chronicled many times, where I was just kind of stuck. So it's like, I'm going to wait till tomorrow until I have a better idea. And I did that over and over and over and over. And that's why I was saying, like, this book is better this way. If I had pushed because I wanted to get word count for no reason, no one can ever give me a reason why they do this, it just would have been a worse book. All of those little moments where I came up with the better thing would have not happened. So I don't know word count. I have no fucking idea. But it is 51 chapters, and I do just write in text format with a very basic text editor. So it's just a normal text file. So I do have the little file sizes, and that was a little interesting, because they'd be like, oh, this one's 7K, this one's 16K. I noticed at the end, the second to last chapter, which was like the final big conversation between the two main characters, and the actual last chapter were way bigger than all the other chapters. They were over 60K each. So they were 3 to 4 times longer than all the other chapters. So like the final chapter in particular took me such a long time to write, but it's not just because, like, everything does get more ponderous and heavier as you go. Things for me just get slower and slower, and I work slower and slower. But also I was writing a chapter that was a fucking monster. It's so huge. And just based on the sizes, the file sizes of those text documents, my friend Brad did estimate. He guesstimated that at a conventional font size, my book's probably 300 to 350 pages probably. Which, based on how long I've been writing it, it's like, yeah, it seems like it could be a lot bigger than that. But then on the other hand, more is not better. If I can cut it down, that probably won't hurt, If shorter can make it better, I am all about making it shorter. But I also just don't care. Again, I don't care. It doesn't matter. Whatever's best for the story is what's best for the story. Size doesn't matter, especially in the modern day and age, where if you get an actual book published physically, like, congratulations. But that's probably not how it's mostly going to live its life anymore. So it really doesn't matter how long it is. But for anyone who's curious, that's the vague size. But yeah, like this last chapter, for example, just doing a little like properties on the folder. That final chapter was so long and so hard to write that I had it split into 7 different subsections. And then I had those 7 subsections split into 34 subsections. Just trying to organize my thoughts and keep things corralled and keep things let me just focus on this. Not the whole picture is too much, just this. And now break this down, and break this down, and break this down. Ludicrous. So then just out of curiosity, I did that same thing to the whole book, the whole first draft. And the whole thing, which is now just a nice folder with 51 chapters in it, 51 files, it was 268 folders with 1,408 different files amongst different versions of the different sections of the different chapters and just backups of miscellaneous note files and stuff. Out of control, dude. Like, that is a monster of a fucking project. But now it's just in its own little folder that says second draft, and it's just 51 text files. Ah, how nice. But that idea of compartmentalizing, that's also why I kind of think of this as basically the end of this podcast, because this was the whole goal from the start, is just get to the end of the draft. It was not necessarily, let's finish the second draft, let's revise, let's find publishers, let's do this, let's do that. I'm sure I'll get into that stuff to some degree as things go on. But right from the beginning, right out of the gate, my plan for this podcast was just get to the end. You've never gotten to the end. You've never finished writing a novel before. Just fucking write one. Get the whole thing done to the end. And use this podcast as a little helpful tool to keep things going. And I didn't want to focus on, you could easily make the argument of I should be thinking about second drafts and I should be thinking about publishers. And, you could get started looking at publishers and looking at whatever and setting up your social media profiles and getting mailing lists. I don't know, just all whatever. But I just knew any of that stuff would all just add weight, would just add pressure to my brain that I couldn't afford to try to carry. I was stressed out enough. It was hard enough to write a first draft that it's I don't want to consider any of these other things. I don't want to think about the second draft. I don't want to think about publishers. I don't care about any of this. And really, how relevant would it even have been? I don't know. If I looked up publishers and shit 7.5 years ago, who gives a shit? Who the fuck cares? Anyway, I didn't want to put the cart before the horse. I just wanted to focus on this one task, which was get to the end of the first draft and not worry about anything else. And I think that was the right thing to do for me because it's not hard for me to get derailed. It's not hard for me to feel overwhelmed. It's not hard for me to let a project grind to a halt because it feels like too much weight to carry. I needed to remove all that weight. So I was just focusing on the task directly ahead of me. And just so happens that one task took 7.5 years. But we did it. We made it. We're here. It's done. And now I'll turn around again and start walking toward these dog walkers and toward the end of this path because, I guess that's it. I don't know what else there is to say. I've reported on the fact that we did it. We completed it. We made it. But at the same time, we've made it nowhere. There's so much work still to do. The process never ends. I'm just heading to a coffee shop right now to just continue working on writing a different story. So many other different stresses still to go. So many. But whatever. Not worrying about it right now. And again, it's just whatever. Who cares? Sort of similarly to writing toward a word count. Writing toward a desire for completion also feels a bit weird to me. Writing for a desire to be a big famous writer, double weird, because I was just rambling about, nothing good's gonna come of that. All that is a test of your hubris, a test of your humility. That's the best you're gonna get out of it, is that you're gonna learn how to be a public fucking figure. Celebrity. Not good, not a good thing. So, I'll check in, I'm sure, at some point about all this stuff, writing second drafts and publishing them, blah, blah, blah. But I'm in no big hurry. Like, I really feel like this was the plan. The plan is complete. It all worked out. Write a little bit every day was not bad advice. It worked out. And then the new advice I picked up along the way is that don't worry about it taking for fucking ever, because who cares? In the grand slipstream of life, it makes no difference. Because getting to the end is weirdly nothing. It's like, yep, okay, it's just another step in a never-ending process. If you don't want to do the process, then don't be a writer. Go do something else. The process ain't gonna stop. But yeah, if for some reason you miss my rambly voice and you want more podcasts, go check out the Roaming Holiday podcast. I'm still putting those bad boys out. My travel podcast. Man, it's crazy because it's so many. I did so many of them. And it's like, it's just ambient information. It's just like me wandering around different areas in Asia and whatever I noticed about them. It's like not really reasonable to expect anybody to listen to that much fucking weird travel thoughts. But I was just looking through the listing for that podcast and even just looking at the titles, it's so cool. I'm like, man, look at all these places I went. Look at all this stuff I did. I mean, I think it's a really cool thing, but it's also like not reasonable to ask anybody to listen to it all. So I don't know, maybe just like pick a spot. Pick a place you're interested in, like Fukuoka or Yokohama or Busan, and just listen to those episodes maybe. I'm really only ever in one spot for, 6 or 7 episodes. That's kind of doable. So yeah, if you feel yourself missing my voice for some reason, Roaming Holiday. There's tons of those and tons more still to come. But as for how to write a novel, we did it. It's done. I wrote a novel. Asterisk. I'm not even close to done. But it just feels done. It feels like the pressure's off. The thing that just seemed so impossible to accomplish in my life is just done. And yeah, maybe it's just weird that it doesn't feel more like a big thing. It just feels like, literally, I just started working on the next thing again. It's just like, well, okay, just keep going. A bit of a catch-22. I finally did the big thing, but again, it's like whatever. And I feel like it's gonna feel that way when I finish the final draft, and it's gonna feel that way if it ever gets published. If I end up just self-publishing it, well, even then, like all this stuff, it'll still just be like, all right, what's the next thing? Let's just move on to the next thing. So it's pretty cool, and also strangely inconsequential. It's just a part of the process. But all right, I think that's enough fucking rambling. That's enough. That's 7.5 years of goddamn rambling. Thank you so much for joining me on all of this. Now, if I was gonna end with a song, my precious, precious songs that got this podcast kicked off Spotify, it's gotta be pretty good, right? It's gotta be worth it. Heavy price I pay for these songs, so it's gotta be the big finale song. What could be the big finale song? I was kind of thinking I might play Field on Fire, the Nine Inch Nails song, because that was the first song I played on this podcast. And it was a real key song as far as the tone of this story. Although, that changed a lot, because Field on Fire is a very bombastic song, and in my mind, the whole finale was kind of that tone. And by the time I got to the end, there's that part, but it quickly swapped over to other tones. Significantly chiller tones, like Amnesia by The Vines, and Just a Phase by Hannah Georgas. Those are the songs I think of now for the finale. But why play a bombastic Nine Inch Nails song when I could play Call Me Maybe? I've been obsessed with this song lately. Not the original Call Me Maybe, because that song is catchy, but I went and checked it out again, and it's like, it doesn't age great. The corny fucking keyboard string stabs, and the music video is brutal. Just a dude mowing a lawn. It's just like the most shallow interpretation ever. Now, why this song has been on my mind is there's this guy, Mac Glocky, who I really like. He does really cool original songs. Never Get Nowhere by Mac Glocky, really good. But he also does a lot of covers, you know, this song in the style of this other band. And somebody asked him to do Call Me Maybe in the style of Alien Ant Farm, so, you know, just like pop punk. And it's like a whole different song. It's so fucking good. And yeah, where the original Call Me Maybe, and especially with that video, is just like this sort of shallow, corny thing. When you rock it up, I mean, obviously this is just the style of song that I like anyway. Guitar, drums, bass, right on, let's do it. But I love this song, like, in this style, because it just changes the tone. I'm imagining, like, a woman at a bar, and it's like a cool, you know, punk club. And she meets this guy, and that line, "It's so hard to look right at you, baby." Like, I feel it. It's so hard to look right at you, because you look so fucking perfect, but not in the sense of a fucking dude without his shirt on mowing a lawn. In the sense of just like a guy you met that is so cool. A person you met that you just feel that is like fascinating, and you're like, oh my God, you stand out so much compared to everyone else. I want to give you my number. I want you to call me. It's hard to look at you. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I feel it, like it feels so legit in this version. I feel that longing, and it's just like, oh, I want to put this in a movie. I want this to be a meet cute scene. I want it to so good. And it would be extra good because you might not clock that it's Call Me Maybe right away till the chorus hits, and then you'd be nodding your head like, oh fuck yes. Call Me Maybe by Mac Glocky. God damn, this is one of his greatest reinterpreted covers. It's so fucking good. I just met you and this is so crazy. Here is my number, won't you just call me maybe? It's so hard to look right at you, baby. Here is my number, won't you just call me? I love it. So that's what we're gonna end off with. We're gonna end off with fucking Call Me Maybe, the Mac Glocky version. Again, thank you for joining me on this journey. The journey that will never end. But presumably this podcast will be in park largely from here on. I don't know. For a while, who knows? Check out Roaming Holiday or just go back to episode 0 of this podcast and start over. Good luck. Good luck on your writing journey. I hope that you also get to experience this feeling of anticlimax someday.
Showing, hot night, wind was blowing. Where you think you came up into my life, I missed you so bad. Before you came up into my life, I missed you so bad. Before you came up into my life, I missed you so bad. Before you came up into my life, I missed you so bad. Hey, I just met you and this is so crazy. But here is my number, won't you just call me maybe? It's so hard to look right at you, baby. But here is my number, won't you just call me? I just met you and this is so crazy. But here is my number, won't you just call me maybe? All the other boys, they try to chase me. Here is my number, won't you just call me? Before you came up into my life, I missed you so bad. Before you came up into my life, I missed you so bad.
All right, if you're still here after that, after all these podcasts, and after Mac Glocky's fucking delightful rendition of Call Me Maybe, let's have a bonus bit, because this is a little thing that stood out to me that I thought was interesting, but interesting in the sense that I'll put it right at the end for the hardcores. But there's this guy named Marshall Sutcliffe, who I know from fucking Magic the Gathering. Comes back to Magic the Gathering. Oh, here's the thing about the color wheel. Oh, here's the fucking Magic the Gathering story I wrote. One more time with Magic the Gathering, where this guy does a podcast about Magic the Gathering. And he's doing fine. He's doing okay. He's paying the bills. But then as a side thing, he started teaching himself how to repair vintage watches. And he made a YouTube channel, Wristwatch Revival, where he just takes apart these vintage watches. And man, it's crazy. I don't know anything about timepieces. All the little springs and gears, and oh my God, it's fucking crazy. It's so complicated. But he does these really slick, cool videos where he just talks his way through what he's doing. And it is bananas popular. Like 1 million views of people just watching him take apart a fucking watch. He's got a whole staff now. It's like nuts. But I thought this was interesting because someone was asking him about this stuff, about endeavor, the nature of endeavor. And his answer I just thought was so great because it was along the lines of, like, yeah, I did this magic podcast because I was learning how to play magic. And me and my friend were always talking about strategies for magic. And I was like, maybe other people would be interested and I'll just make a podcast about it. And a similar thing with the watches. I was just interested in watches. I wanted to learn how to repair a watch. And when I felt like I was good enough at it, I made a YouTube video because I thought people might be interested. But in neither case did he have like a profit motive. Eventually, the magic podcast took off enough that he could quit his day job. And at this point, the watch YouTube channel is so huge, he could easily quit the magic show, but he still does it because he likes magic cards. And that's kind of the point, is that he would have done both of these things regardless of the outcome, As long as there was anybody that cared on any level, he would have been happy to do the magic podcast and keep his day job. He would have been happy to do the watch channel and just have a small viewership. The fact that it blew up like it did is a cool side effect, but was not the goal. And that he talks about how if that had been the goal, he would have gotten in his own way. It would have changed the process. What made all of this happen and what made all of this work and what made it fun to do was that he was doing it because he wanted to do it. And I just feel like that applies so much to writing a novel, of like, don't write the novel because you want to be a writer of novels. Don't write a novel because you want to be a big famous person. Write a novel because you like the process of writing novels. And if it works out, great. And if it doesn't work out, well, that's not why you were here in the first place, so just keep going. So yeah, I really feel like it's very applicable. And man, Marshall Sutcliffe, if you've never heard this guy before, he has got a level head. This is the kind of guy, my God, You need somebody to read your audiobook. I don't know who'd be better than this dude. Just a fun guy to listen to. But yeah, let's end with that. Let's end with some talk from a very successful guy who's been successful in multiple areas, but about how striving for success, doing all this stuff with an expectation of success, is probably not going to make you happy, and it's probably not going to work out how you want it to. I think very fascinating. Take it away, Marshall.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Limited Resources. This episode number 801. My name is Marshall. Let's see. Next one comes from Spencer, who says, Mr. Marshall, I'm very curious to know your thoughts and feelings about your explosive fame in the wristwatch world. Wristwatches are a bigger niche than MTG, but how does it feel that Wristwatch Revival has multiple single videos that surpass all of LR's view count? Do you want to keep them separate, or do you encourage crossover interests among the comments? So glad your watch fans have appreciated your presence and presentation as much as we do. Thanks, Spencer. Yeah, no, that has been completely crazy. I mean, it's a unexpected success there. You know, I did that channel because I wanted to. Like, there was no, you know, I always try to put myself, I try to do things correctly how I see them when I do them, and I try to do them fully when I actually do the thing. But that's different from, oh, this is going to blow up and this is going to be so popular or whatever. Like, that's not, I don't think like that. I have learned a lot of lessons from poker and Magic that translate to life really, really well. And a good example for something like this would be, I often see people either tell me or on social media say, my goal for this year is to get 10,000 subscribers or this many followers on Twitter or Instagram or whatever. And I always just shake my head. I've never, ever approached something that way. That is, I think goals are highly overrated. I know that's like a weird thing because everybody says you have to have a goal, you have to have a thing. Yes, you kind of do, in the sense that you want to be pointed in a direction. You don't want to be directionless if you're trying to get somewhere in life. But beyond that, the more specific the goal gets, the more I don't care about it, because you do not get to control outcomes to that degree. And furthermore, if you try to, it's usually against your best interest. For example, if you want to try to get so many subscribers or followers on a platform, and that's your goal, and that's how you set it, you say, okay, I want to get to 10,000 by the end of the year. What do I do? Right? Well, the answer was, before you said 10,000, the answer was already there. You didn't need to set any type of goal, which is you need to make the best content that you possibly can that's sustainable. If you burn yourself out, then you don't have a podcast that goes to 800 episodes, right? You need to be able to do this sustainably, and you need to be able to figure out a way to delight your audience, to give them something useful, something entertaining, something informative, something whatever, inspiring, whatever it is that you're trying to do. You need to figure out how to do that. And you need to work on the processes to do that, and the consistency and the quality and all the things that go into making that the best thing that you can do. Then at the end of a year, you go, how many followers did I get? And if you really feel that you've put in the effort that you need to, and that the product that you're putting out is the best that you can do, and you're not getting any followers, that's a sign. Maybe there isn't a big audience for what you're doing. And then you can decide for yourself whether that's okay with you or not. But if you get to the end of the year, let's say there's 2 months left, and you're at 8,000 and your goal was 10,000, and you've been putting out really good content and you're very proud of it and you've seen good growth, but you're probably going to fall a little short of that goal. What are you going to do? Like, are you going to do something stupid? Are you going to do something short-sighted? Are you going to say, oh, I'm going to do a contest where I give something away and try to bribe people to follow me? Am I going to put out a video or a podcast that just says, please, please, please like and subscribe, blah, 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 the algorithm, blah, 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 it helps the channel? These aren't useful for your audience. They're useful for you, right? And you're just simply taking a hit to try to get some arbitrary goal that you set. I don't like that. You should put all of the effort, all of it up front, all of it into the process. Ignore the outcome. Like, don't even pay attention to it until a certain amount of time has passed where you feel that you've put out enough that if it were going to catch on and find its audience, it would have at that point, and then check it. And I know that that's not how it works. I check my stuff too. We're human beings, right? You're going to want to know what's going on with it. But the obsessive checking of it, that's not useful. And the idea that you can set some type of arbitrary goals, that's not useful either. So I really, really try to limit that as much as I can. When it comes to Wristwatch Revival, that's how I approached it. I just put this out and I said, these things are cool. I recognized that I wouldn't be able to put the time and effort needed to put the quality of videos that I wanted to put out over the long term if it didn't find an audience. And I was okay with that. I've done projects like that where I'm like, I'm going to do this because I want to. I think it's a worthwhile and interesting project, and it'll kind of be what it is. And if it finds a nice big audience, then I'll continue it. And if I can build something around it, business-wise, monetarily, to support myself, whatever, then I'll do that. But if it doesn't, that's okay. I got lots of ideas. I like making a lot of different stuff. But I'm really good at grabbing the bull by the horns when it's there. When I realized that LR hit and was like finding its audience, I'm like, let's do this. And when Wristwatch Revival did the same thing, I'm like, let's do this, and I've continued that process all the way through. It does definitely feel weird, like what you said about the viewer counts and stuff. I mean, some of just the nature of YouTube and modern era stuff is mind boggling. I mean, it is. Well, I will just say my brain is not capable of understanding it, right? Like, a couple of my videos have like 10 million views. 10 million people watched it. And I think the biggest amount of people that I'm capable of understanding in my mind is like roughly a football stadium worth, 70,000 or something like that. That's about the most that I can kind of understand. And if I went to a sold out show at the football stadium here in Seattle and I was like, all of these people watched that, I don't think my brain could comprehend it. And that's like what, 0.7% of the people that's watched it? Like, it's just ludicrous, right? These numbers are not grokkable, at least by my brain. And for that reason, by the way, I try not to focus on them too much. It's cool. It's cool. I'm coming up on 1 million subscribers for that channel. But the truth is, this is between us LR faithful, I don't really care that much. Once you start to really focus on those types of, I call them vanity numbers. I mean, they really are. Like, when you really think about it, think about subscriber count on YouTube. Why does it matter? There's one thing that matters for. There's two things that it matters for. One is vanity. So it's like, it's a quick check to say, oh, you're really doing this. You're legit. And that feels good. It does. Like your ego or your vanity, whatever. It's like, oh man, that's, anybody in the world can look at that and say, that's something real, right? That it's got 1 million subs. Like that's the real deal, right? And so I'm extremely grateful for that part of it. And it does feel good. I'm not going to lie. It feels great. That's really cool. But as far as like working focus, no way. Because the other thing that it can do, and this is legitimate, this does actually matter, is that if you are taking on sponsorships, they will use that. Even though it doesn't really matter, they will look at that number and go, okay, well, you're legit, so let's make a deal or whatever. But the only thing that really matters is how many people are watching your videos. Because I mean, how many times have you seen a YouTuber who has 5 million subs and you're like, oh, it's a huge channel, and you go click in and their last 7 videos have like 4,000 views each. Right. And they've just kind of ran their course, right? Lost their audience for one reason or another. And the fact that they have 5 million subs is completely meaningless. Like, it doesn't mean anything, right? Because there's just not that many people are watching their channel relative to their subscriber count. So anyway, so that's why I try not to focus too much on that. But when it does come up, it is shocking. I mean, the numbers are just freaking crazy. 2, in an alternate universe, you are Professor Marshall Sutcliffe. What are you teaching or researching? I would try to teach critical thinking. I've learned so much in adulthood about it from gaming, from Magic, and from poker that's changed the way that I see the world, and I think has made me a better person and better at pursuing the things that I want and better understanding of other people and just made me better. And I would try to teach that. That little speech I gave earlier in one of the first questions about putting all your effort up front and letting the outcome be the outcome, that would be a semester. I can't emphasize how strongly, that's affected my life and the way that I approach things. And I think it works. I just do.
Temporary fix to cure my loneliness. Now if I only could put effort into keeping it, something to numb the pain, just as strong as cocaine, and similarly makes you hate you want it all the same. I wish I chasing the sky until the end. Over a quarter dead, still not a father yet. I just push everyone away to be alone instead. By 2035, I hope I'm still alive, and someone's there to love me more than I could ever try. Why climb up a mountain and if I get nowhere? Time keeps on counting, it doesn't even care. Suddenly I am by myself again. I'll just keep chasing the sky until the end.